Your content calendar might already be obsolete. I know that's not what you want to hear, especially if you spent the last 2 weeks color coding every tweet, carousel, reel, and blog post through Q3. But here's the thing, that calendar you're staring at, it was built on assumptions that no longer hold. And I'm not just talking about the algorithm changes, though, yes, those too. I'm talking about something more fundamental, a structural shift in how content gets discovered, consumed, and acted on. Welcome to Signal versus Noise, an episode with Marketing with AI by Rohit Shetty. I'm your host, Rohit Shetty, and today we're going deep on one of the most uncomfortable truths in modern content marketing. The traditional content calendar, that sacred spreadsheet, that editorial Bible is increasingly a liability, not an asset. We're going to cover three things today. First, I'm going to expose the 5 publishing myths that are quietly killing your content results. Then, we're going to talk about adaptive content, what it actually means when AI can read your audience's pulse in real time. And finally, we'll build out a real time content strategy framework that you can start using this week. No fluff, no vague frameworks. We're going to the numbers. Let me start with a stat that stopped me cold when I first read it. 94% of marketers plan to use AI in their content creation process in 2026. 94. That's not a majority. That's near unanimity. And yet, the majority of those same marketers are still running content calendars that were designed for a world where you had to plan 8 weeks out just to keep the publishing pipeline moving. There's a massive, dangerous gap between the tools teams are adopting and the strategy those teams are running. That gap is what this episode is about, the golden age of content calendars and why it ended. Let's take a step back because I don't want to trash the content calendar without acknowledging why it existed and why, for a long time, it was genuinely the right tool. Cast your mind back to 2012, maybe 2015. Content marketing was still a relatively new discipline. Joe Pulizzi had just written Content Incorporated HubSpot, was evangelizing the inbound playbook. The idea was simple and honestly revolutionary at the time. If you publish consistently, on a schedule, on topics your audience cares about, you will build trust, you will build traffic, and you will generate leads. And it worked. It absolutely worked. The content calendar was the operational backbone of that strategy. You'd plan a quarter out, you'd assign ownership, you'd know that every Tuesday there's a blog post, every Thursday there's an email, and twice a week there's social content. Consistency was the competitive advantage. Showing up regularly week after week signaled credibility. It told your audience, we're here, we're serious, we're not going anywhere. But here's what happened. That strategy assumed a certain information scarcity. It assumed that if you published regularly on a topic, you were one of only a handful of voices covering it. It assumed that your editorial calendar, your ability to plan and execute was your competitive moat. And then, slowly at first, and then all at once, both of those assumptions collapsed. Consider this. By 2025, 74% of newly created web pages contained AI generated content. That comes from an Href study of 900,000 pages. Information scarcity? Gone. The web is now flooded with content. The bottleneck is no longer production, it's attention, trust, and relevance. And get this, in the same Ahrefs study, only 2.5% of pages were pure AI. The other 72%? Human AI blends, which means your competitors are already hybrid. They're already faster than you. They're already producing more, testing more, adapting more. And if you're still printing out a 12-week editorial calendar and treating it like a contract, you're already losing. 74.2% of all new web pages in 2025 contain AI generated or AI assisted content, according to an Ahrefs study of 900,000 pages. However, only 2.5% are fully AI generated, showing that most content is created through human AI collaboration. At the same time, 85% of marketers now use AI tools for content creation, highlighting AI's growing role in modern marketing workflows. But the most damning signal isn't the volume of content being produced, it's what's happening to search itself. Google AI overviews, those AI generated summaries at the top of search results, have gone from covering 6.4% of queries in January 2025 to 13.1% by March 2025. That's a 102% increase in just 60 days. And Gartner is projecting that over a third of web content will be specifically optimized for AI powered search by 2026. Think about that. We're building content for a world where the first thing a user sees isn't your carefully crafted headline. It's an AI generated summary that may or may not include your brand. The rules of the game have changed, and a static, pre planned content calendar cannot adapt fast enough to play the new game. Alright, let's get into the myths. These are the 5 beliefs that I see holding content teams back. Beliefs that are baked into the logic of the traditional content calendar and that AI is systematically dismantling. Myth 1: consistency means publishing on a fixed schedule. Truth: consistency means maintaining relevance. The schedule is just the delivery mechanism. Here's the thing about fixed schedules: they were a proxy for relevance when relevance was hard to measure in real time. If you showed up every Tuesday, your audience learned to expect you on Tuesday. That was useful. But AI powered analytics tools can now tell you with eerie precision when your specific audience is most likely to engage on which platform with which content type. Posting Tuesday at 10 a.m. because that's what the calendar says, when your data is screaming that your audience is most active Wednesday evenings, that's not consistency, that's stubbornness. Myth 2: planning 8 weeks out keeps the team organized. Truth: 8-week plans create 8-week lag. By the time content publishes, the moment may have passed. I want to tell you about something that happened during the Silicon Valley Bank collapse in March 2023. Within hours, every financial services brand that had a rigid, pre scheduled content calendar was posting about spring savings tips and Q2 planning completely tone deaf to the moment. Meanwhile, the brands that had built adaptive content workflows were able to pivot in real time, address the situation, and actually build trust with their audiences. 8-week lag has a real cost. And it's not just about crises, it's about trends, cultural movements, competitor moves, and customer questions that are happening right now. Myth 3: more content equals more traffic equals more leads. Truth: volume without strategic intent is just noise, and in 2026, it actively hurts you. Let me give you a brutal stat. In a 16-month experiment tracked by Search Engine Land, 71% of AI generated pages got indexed within 36 days. Sounds great, right? But by the 3-month mark, only 3% remained in the top 100 search results. 3%. Google is absolutely capable of recognizing low quality, high volume content, and it penalizes it. Meanwhile, companies publishing 16 or more posts monthly see 3.5 times more traffic, but only when each piece meets structural quality benchmarks: 2100 or more words for competitive keywords, source statistics, question based headings, and deep internal linking. Velocity without quality is noise. And noise is what your content calendar optimizes for when the pressure is to fill the slots. Myth 4: our audience wants to hear from us on our schedule. Truth: your audience wants to hear from you when they have a question or a problem. That's not your schedule, that's theirs. This one is the most humbling myth to confront because it requires you to admit that the content calendar has, in part, been about operational convenience, not audience centricity. The content calendar exists because it's easier to manage a team with a plan. That's legitimate. But confusing operational convenience with audience strategy is a mistake. 52% of consumers reduce engagement with content they believe is AI generated. But here's the nuance: they don't reduce engagement because it's AI. They reduce engagement because it feels irrelevant, generic, and untargeted. The problem isn't the tool, the problem is the strategy. A calendar that forces you to publish regardless of whether you have something meaningful to say will produce exactly that kind of content. Myth 5: we need to plan content in advance to maintain brand voice. Truth: brand voice is maintained through guidelines and intelligence, not calendar enforced repetition. This is the myth I hear most often from enterprise content teams, and I understand it. When you have 15 people touching content across 6 channels in 4 regions, a calendar creates guardrails. But here's what's changed. AI tools like Claude, GPT 4, and Jasper can now be trained on your brand guidelines to produce on brand content in minutes. 86% of marketers report that AI saves them more than an hour daily on creative tasks. The brand voice problem, the reason you needed 8 weeks of planning, is largely solved. What's not solved is the strategy that decides what to say and when. That's the human job now. AI is significantly improving marketing efficiency, with 86% of marketers saving more than an hour daily using AI tools. However, 52% of consumers reduce engagement with AI generated content when it feels irrelevant, showing that relevance matters more than whether content is AI created. At the same time, only 3% of low quality AI pages continue ranking after 3 months, reinforcing that quality and value are essential for long term visibility and SEO success. Adaptive content, what it is, and how AI enables it. So, if not the traditional content calendar, then what? Let me introduce you to the concept of adaptive content and specifically to the AI systems that make it operationally viable for teams of any size. Adaptive content is content that responds to real time signals rather than preset schedules. It doesn't mean you have no plan, it means your plan has flexibility built into its architecture. Think of it less like a train schedule and more like GPS navigation. You have a destination, but the route adjusts in real time based on conditions. The signals that adaptive content responds to fall into three categories. Let me walk you through each one. Signal category 1, audience behavior data. This is the data you probably already have access to but aren't using in real time for content decisions. We're talking about which pages your audience is spending time on right now, which search queries are driving unexpected traffic spikes, which email subject lines are generating open rates that break from your baseline, and which social posts are driving engagement velocity in the first hour of publishing before the algorithm decides how to distribute them. AI tools, Google Analytics 4 with AI features, which has 72.4% adoption among marketers, plus tools like ClearScope, MarketMuse, and SEMrush's Copilot can surface these signals automatically and translate them into content recommendations. The question isn't what should we publish next Tuesday? It's what are our people asking right now and what's the fastest path to a high quality answer? Signal category 2, competitor and market intelligence. In 2026, the competitive content landscape moves at a speed that no human team can manually track. AI tools can monitor your top 10 competitors, alert you when they publish content on a topic you've been planning to cover, and critically identify the gaps in their coverage that represent your opportunity. There's a metric I want you to think about called share of model. It's the equivalent of share of voice, but for AI search engines. When someone asks ChatGPT or Perplexity or Google's AI overview about a topic in your space, how often does your brand appear in the answer? IDC is predicting that by 2029, brands will allocate 5 times more budget to LLM optimization than to traditional SEO. If your competitors are already building for share of model and you're planning content 8 weeks out based on last quarter's keyword research, you're not just behind, you're building in the wrong direction. Signal category 3, cultural and trend velocity. This is the signal category that the traditional content calendar handles worst and that AI handles best. Cultural moments, trending conversations, breaking news, viral formats, these have a half life measured in hours, not weeks. By the time a planned content workflow gets a trend through briefing, drafting, approval, and scheduling, the moment has passed. AI tools like BuzzSumo's Trending Now, Google Trends API integrations, and even social listening platforms using LLMs can identify an emerging trend, assess its relevance to your brand, generate a draft response, and have it ready for human review and publishing in under 60 minutes. That's not theoretical, that's a workflow that teams are running right now in 2026. Let me give you a concrete example of what adaptive content looks like at its best. In late 2025, a mid-sized B2B SaaS company, I'll keep them anonymous, was using a traditional quarterly content calendar. Their content team of four was producing 12 pieces of long form content per quarter, all pre planned, all meticulously crafted. Meanwhile, a direct competitor with a team of two had deployed an adaptive content system. The competitor was producing 36 pieces per quarter at comparable quality, responding to search trends within 48 hours, and building for AI overview citations with structured data. Within 2 quarters, the competitor had increased organic traffic by 2 to 100%. The 4-person team with the beautiful content calendar, flat. This is the structural advantage I'm talking about. It's not about working harder, it's about working with real time intelligence instead of a static plan. AI is rapidly reshaping digital marketing and search economics. According to the Every 2026 Benchmarks report, AI powered content teams are producing 5-10 times more content while reducing per article costs by 75-85%. McKinsey and Company reports that AI driven campaigns are delivering 22% higher ROI and 32% more conversions in 2026. At the same time, traditional search volume is projected to decline by 25% by the end of 2026 as AI overviews increasingly satisfy user intent directly. Looking ahead, IDC predicts that by 2029, businesses will allocate 5 times more budget to LLM optimization than traditional SEO, signaling a major shift toward AI first visibility strategies. Now, I want to be careful here because I am not telling you to throw away all planning. The teams winning with adaptive content are not operating in pure chaos. What they've done is replace the rigid, weeks long planning cycle with what I call a content intelligence loop. Let me describe how this works. Picture a flywheel. At the top, you have your strategic anchors, your core topics, your brand positioning, your audience segments. These don't change week to week, they are your North Star. Below that, you have a rolling content backlog, a list of potential topics, formats, and angles prioritized by real time signal strength rather than a preset publication date. Every week, ideally every 48 hours, that backlog gets refreshed by AI powered signal monitoring. The topics that are gaining momentum get promoted. The topics that were relevant 8 weeks ago but have gone cold get deprioritized. Your publishing queue at any given moment reflects what the market wants now, not what a planning meeting decided 2 months ago. Let's make this tactical because I know that someone listening right now is thinking, this sounds great in theory, but I have a client who wants a content calendar by Friday, and my team has been running this way for 3 years. I hear you. The transition to adaptive content strategy is not a one-day switch, but there are specific steps you can take immediately to start modernizing your approach. And I'm going to walk through 5 of them. Step 1: separate your strategic layer from your tactical layer. Your long term plan, your pillar topics, your audience personas, your brand messaging should absolutely be pre planned. That's your strategic layer, and it should be relatively stable quarter to quarter. What should not be pre planned in the same document is the specific tactical execution, the exact titles, the exact publish dates, the exact formats. Decouple these two layers. Your strategy is a slow moving foundation, your tactics are a fast moving response system. Most content calendars conflate the two, which makes everything feel equally rigid. Step 2: build a signal monitoring stack. You need at minimum 3 tools working together. First, a real time search intelligence tool, Google Search Console, integrated with AI dashboards, or SEMrush's Copilot feature. Second, a social listening tool, even the free tier of tools like Mention or Brandwatch Lite, can surface trending conversations. Third, a competitor content monitoring system. You can build a lightweight version of this with RSS feeds and AI summarization in under an hour. Together, these 3 tools give you a constant stream of signals to feed your rolling backlog. Step 3: implement the 70 over 30 content split. Here's a practical framework I've seen work well in teams making this transition. 70% of your content capacity goes to your rolling signal driven backlog. These are the responsive, trend aware pieces that reflect what the market wants right now. 30% is pre planned, high investment content, original research, cornerstone articles, quarterly state of the industry pieces, and formats that genuinely require 8 plus weeks of planning. The 30% gives stakeholders and clients the predictability they need. The 70% is where you compete. Step 4: redesign your approval workflow for speed. One of the most underappreciated barriers to adaptive content is the internal approval process. If every piece of content has to go through 3 rounds of review before it can be published, you cannot be adaptive regardless of how good your AI tools are. The solution is tiered approval. Low risk, high frequency content, social posts, reactive blogs on established topics gets a single reviewer, same day approval. Medium risk content gets a 48-hour review window with one stakeholder. Only high risk, high visibility pieces go through the full multi stakeholder review. Map your approval tiers before you redesign your content workflow. If you don't, the bureaucracy will kill the strategy. Step 5: measure differently. And finally, and this is critical, you need to update your success metrics. The traditional content calendar is typically measured against lagging indicators, traffic last month, leads last quarter, rankings in the last reporting cycle. Adaptive content strategy requires leading indicators: engagement velocity in the first 4 hours of publishing, AI overview citation rate, share of model growth, content to pipeline conversion at the first touch. Only 41% of marketers actively measure content marketing ROI right now. But here's the thing: the brands that are measuring these leading AI era indicators are the ones building a structural advantage. You can't optimize what you don't measure. And if you are measuring with a quarterly rearview mirror, you will always be behind the curve. Content marketing continues to outperform traditional outbound strategies, but measurement remains a challenge. According to the HubSpot State of Marketing 2026 report, only 41% of marketers actively measure content ROI. At the same time, AI adoption is proving effective, with 68% of brands using AI in workflows reporting higher ROI, according to Demand Sage 2026. Content marketing also remains significantly more efficient than outbound marketing, generating 3 times more leads at 62% lower cost based on consistent industry benchmarks. In the B2B space, average content marketing ROI ranges from 3 to 1 and can reach up to 5 to 1 when integrated with SEO strategies, as highlighted in the Genesis Growth 2026 report. Let me also address the team and culture dimension of this, because it's real and it matters. The shift from calendar driven to signal driven content changes what you need from your team. 73% of content roles are being redefined around AI collaboration right now. AI content creators are the second fastest growing job role in marketing, with a 134.5% increase in demand. The skill set is shifting from can you write consistently to a brief to can you brief AI effectively, evaluate its outputs critically, and make strategic decisions in real time. That is a fundamentally different skill profile. And if you're hiring, managing, or training content people in 2026 without teaching AI collaboration as a core competency, you are building a team for a world that no longer exists. I also want to spend a moment on something that often gets glossed over in conversations about AI and content: the trust dimension. A recent Capgemini study found that 73% of consumers globally trust content created by generative AI. But, and this is a critical, but 52% reduce engagement when they identify content as AI generated. There's no contradiction there. Consumers don't inherently distrust AI. They distrust AI that feels lazy, generic, and untargeted. The adaptive content strategy I've been describing is specifically designed to produce the opposite: content that feels timely, relevant, and like it was written for you, not at you. That relevance signal the sense that this brand gets what I care about right now is what builds trust in 2026, not the consistency of your Tuesday blog post. One more number I want to leave you with before we wrap up, because I think it's the most important one in this entire episode. The AI in marketing market is valued at $47.32 billion in 2025, and it's projected to reach 107.5 billion by 2028. That's a CAGR of 36.6%. We are in the steepest part of the adoption curve. The gap between teams that have built adaptive, AI powered content systems and teams that are still filling in spreadsheet calendars is widening every single quarter. This is not a marginal efficiency gain, it's a structural competitive advantage, and it compounds. The AI marketing industry is experiencing explosive growth and reshaping the future of work. The global AI in marketing market was valued at $47.32 billion in 2025 and is projected to reach $107.5 billion by 2028, growing at a 36.6% CAGR. At the workforce level, 73% of content and marketing roles are being redefined around AI capabilities, according to 2026 marketing workforce data. Demand for AI focused talent is also surging, with AI content creator roles seeing a 134.5% increase in hiring demand, making it one of the fastest growing categories in marketing careers. Let's land the plane. We've covered a lot of ground today, so let me bring it back to the core argument. The traditional content calendar was built for a world of information scarcity, slow distribution, and manual production. That world is gone. In its place is a world where 74% of new web pages contain AI assisted content, where Google AI overviews are doubling their query coverage every 2 months, and where your audience's attention is being competed for by systems that adapt in real time. The content calendar isn't evil, it's not even obsolete as a concept. What's obsolete is the version that treats a plan made 8 weeks ago as more trustworthy than a signal you're receiving right now. The future of content strategy is a planning architecture that holds strategy stable and keeps tactics fluid, that uses AI as a signal amplifier and a production accelerator, while keeping human judgment at the center of creative direction and brand positioning. The five myths we busted today: fixed schedules, equal consistency; long lead times, equal organization; volume equals traffic; your schedule equals their need; and rigid calendars protect brand voice. Each of these will hold you back if you let them go. The three adaptive content signals, audience behavior, competitor intelligence, and cultural velocity, are available to you right now. The five steps to a real-time strategy: separating strategic from tactical layers, building a signal stack, implementing the 70-30 split, redesigning your approval workflow, and measuring with leading indicators. These are actionable this week. Here's my challenge for you coming out of this episode. Open your content calendar right now. Find the three pieces that are scheduled furthest out, probably 6 to 8 weeks from today. Ask yourself, what assumption am I making about the world in 6 to 8 weeks that I could not possibly verify today? That assumption is your risk. That assumption is where the traditional calendar fails you. And that assumption is the first thing an adaptive content strategy fixes: signal versus noise. The signal is always there. AI just makes it louder, faster, and if you've built the right system, it's impossible to ignore. I'm your host, Rohit Shetty. This has been Marketing with AI by Rohit Shetty. If this episode was useful, share it with one content leader in your network, one person who is still defending the 8 week calendar. They might not thank you today, they'll thank you in Q4. Until next time, stay signal.